So we are excited to be using eSMR 2.5. It's been quite some time that we've been waiting for the system to go live. We're very excited to use it. Similar to eSMR 2 when it first rolled out, I'm the one that probably went out to your region, or we met at the regional water board and we did the training session. So we probably met with eSMR 2. So now eSMR 2.5, we're doing the trainings through WebEx. So since you're familiar with kind of the mechanics of eSMR 2, going through and navigating to your reports, eSMR 2.5 is just an additional tab available on your report builder screen. So we're very excited for this new system. It's been quite some time, and so here it is. We're going to get started using it. So first, we're going to have 3 looks at the information. So the first look is we're actually going to go through these presentation slides. I have a few graphics, and it's kind of like high-level information. And after the slides, I'm going to do a demo of the system, so I'll actually click through the tabs. And then after that, we'll go through our Waterboard's webpage. Before we get started, we do have a few ground rules. So, all right. So with the WebEx phone system, you do have the ability to mute your line. So I'm going to go ahead and ask everyone to hit *6 to mute your line. That way we don't have as much feedback. And then if you do have a question, hit *6 to unmute yourself. Clarifying questions are welcome, such as slow down, speak up, and then could you please repeat? So those are welcomed. Hold all other questions till the end. So if you had questions about your particular facility or questions about your permit, hold off to the end, and we will have some time to go over that. And then if you did have a question and you wanted to send it, you can use the chat function with WebEx. So you could send that to Armando and Gil, and they're the ones that you probably contacted when you called the DMR help desk. So they are here, and they will be on they'll be able to view any chats you send. And so with that chat function of WebEx, if you've seen it, there's I believe a to box, and so that send to box, you want to make sure you select everyone so that everyone sees your message. That way, if you have a question and it's probably the same as several other people, then just one person sends it, and then we'd get that question. We'd actually reply to everyone as well, so everyone would see the answer. All right, so those are the ground rules. So let's get started. Again, we're going to go through this presentation, the first run, and then we'll go through a demo, and then the next thing is actually going through our web page and looking at our DMR entry guide. So first, what we're going to do is actually show you how to navigate through the DMR dashboard. And again, it's similar setup to what you're accustomed to, with the report builder screen where you have the different tabs where you enter in different types of information. I'm going to go over how to enter in your data. Most people will be using the web entry screens. If you have a LIM system, or if you're able to generate an upload file, you could upload your data. We'll discuss linking and unlinking reports. We'll discuss the submittal, and then also the PDF generation before the submittal, and then how to withdraw or make corrections to your report. So let's get started, and I'll show you what the dashboard looks like. So here's the DMR dashboard. Again, it's similar to the report builder screen that you're accustomed to, in which you have the no discharge, EDF, CDF, analytical data, calculated data, data summary, attachments, violations, and then there we have the DMR tab, and then finally the submittal tab. And so here on the DMR dashboard, you'll see that it builds out a table, and the table lists the feature limit sets associated to your permit. And so by clicking on the feature limit set, it would actually take you to the web entry forms. The next column is the monitoring period. So similar to your SMRs in which you have the different monitoring periods, it's the same ones here, and they will typically match up. The next column is the due date, so that feature limit set for that monitoring period is due on that date. and when it matches the DMRs to the SMRs, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, typically those due dates will match up. A no DI drop-down box. So if you wanted to apply a no DI code to the entire feature limit set, you simply click on that drop-down menu and you can apply a no DI code to all the parameters within that feature limit set. The next column is status. So to let you know if the data had been completed or if it's empty. So the first two, empty and incomplete, that's letting you know that you still need a little bit more work to complete that feature limit set. And if the feature limit set is red, letting you know that it's not complete, you will not be able to submit the SMR report. The next two different types of statuses, so besides empty and incomplete, we have no DI. So if you apply a no DI to the entire feature limit set, and then the last one is complete, letting you know that all the data had been entered in for that feature limit set. And then the last column we have is unlink. So in the event that this feature limit set is linked to the wrong SMR, if you wanted to, or if you wanted to unlink it and link it to a different SMR, you can use that last column, unlink, to do that. All right, so now moving on to the buttons over here on the side. So the right-hand side, we have the upload manage files. So if you chose to use an upload file, you can click on that link. And then below that, we have the DMR PDF report. And so to create a PDF of the data set that you uploaded, you click on that link. All right, so that's a look at the dashboard. It's pretty simple. We worked with our user group to develop this simple user interface. So if you wanted to enter in data through the web entry forms, what we want to do is actually click on that first column, so the links under the first column, feature limit set. So 001A, clicking on that link brings us to our web entry form. So on our web entry form, similar to your paper DMRs, in which you have your quantity or loading, your Q1, Q2, and then you have your quality concentration. So we have our C1, C2, C3. And then for any expectations we have, so for temperature, there's an expectation for C3, so you'll see a result box under C3. So we're expecting the actual instantaneous maximum for temperature. So you'd enter in your results in that result box under C3. You'll see that there are no result boxes for C1 or C2 or Q1 or Q2, just letting you know that just like on your paper forms where a result is expected, you know, there is a field box there just to notify you of that. So for the result, you enter in your results. There's a drop-down menu for the units. You can enter in your excursions. So moving to the right-hand side, excursions is at the top, and then below that we have sample type. That's a drop-down menu. You could choose a different sample type, and then frequency. That's a drop-down menu as well. So the form is pre-populated with what ICE is expecting. So just on your paper forms, you know how it's pre-populated. That same file pre-populates these web entry forms. So that's pretty similar to your paper DMRs. So the things that are different is that here at the top where we have temperature, so letting you know what parameter you're filling out. If we move over to the left, to actually the right-hand side, so moving from our left to the right, you'll look for that text comments. So comments, and then there's a link show. So by clicking on show, that will display any comments the EPA has entered in for that feature limit set. So that's something important to click on when you open up the feature limit set. So if they had instructions on when to enter a no-DI code or if a certain parameter is required, you'd want to click show comments and then view those instructions that EPA has entered in for that DMR form. So that's different. The other items that are different is down here at the bottom for this parameter, we have a status box. So at the top of the status box, we have the text source. And source lets you know how the data was entered in, either through web entry or through an upload file. Again, we anticipate most people to use the web entry forms. It's similar to the paper process. The upload file is for those more sophisticated LIM system. If you could generate an upload file, that's great. But we created these web entry forms to make it simple for you to enter in your data. So below source, what we have there is our status for that particular result or parameter. So here we have red text letting us know that C3 is not complete. So that status box will actually give you a warning or let you know if something's wrong. So once you enter in a result for the parameter and click Save, you'll see in that status box it'll turn green, letting you know that the parameter is saved successfully, and then there would be no text in that box, letting you know that everything is okay with that entry. So that's the web entry form. Similar to the paper forms, there are a few differences with this electronic version, such as the comments, and then also letting you know how the data was entered, and then showing you any warnings or errors with the data that had been entered in or data that had not been filled out. So moving from web entry form, the other option for data entry is an upload file. And so on the screen, I have an example of what the upload file looks like when you open it up in Notepad. And so this upload file is different from the SMR PET tool. So the SMR PET tool and this DMR upload file are two different file structures. So here on the screen, this is the DMR upload file. And at the top, you'll see that there's the header information. So permit feature ID, limit set text, monitoring period text. So that's the header information. And then below that, we actually have a result. So 001A 2014-630. So that's the file format, the structure of the upload file. Again, it's a comma-separated file, and we do have instructions on how to create that file, actually the file specifications on our web page. So that's the upload file. And I want to go over like the pros and cons to using either one. And it comes out when you're trying to revise your data. So if you use the web entry forms and you want to revise your data, you know, if you entered it in on Monday and then you saved it, and then you can come back on Tuesday, your data would still be there, but there's a change to it. Using the web entry forms, you could make those changes on the screen. If you used an upload file, if you uploaded a file on Monday and then you came back on Wednesday and then found out that something was wrong with that upload file, you cannot make changes on the screen. You'd have to delete that upload file, make the changes on your desktop, and then re-upload that file. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So that's a look at how to enter in your data. So again, most people would use the web entry forms. If you can generate an upload file, that's awesome. That's great. So moving on, so from entering in your data, the next thing we want to talk about is your ability to link and unlink DMRs. And so when we go and when we got our Chrome Air compliance and we built this application, what we do is we actually built a node that communicates with EPA's servers or computers. And so our node, our computer, actually it actually does there's actually two pathways. So there's one in which it fetches the data, so it fetches an empty slot file. So that's similar to like your pre-printed DMR forms. They're generated from a file that they have. And so our DMR web entry forms are generated from that same file. And so it populates these forms, and then these forms are linked to your SMR reports. So many of you, you've been using the system for some time now, so are familiar with the SMR reporting schedule. So the regional staff probably set up your reporting schedule so that you have monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual reports, that's dictated like in your permit. And so your monthly reports, your quarterly reports, semi-annual, and annual reports, they have a monitoring period and then a due date. So the same thing with the DMRs, there's a monitoring period and a due date. And so instead of adding an additional link for the DMRs, the the purpose, for eSMR 2.5 with our user group was to have one submittal with both your SMRs and your DMRs. So what happens is the DMRs look for a matching SMR report and then link to that matching SMR report. And so there's different algorithms that it uses to match. So there's different ways it looks at the SMR report to see if it's a good match. In the event that it didn't match correctly, or if you wanted to just have that DMR report linked to a different SMR report, depending if you wanted to submit the report a little bit earlier, or if you hadn't got the data ready and you want to submit it later, you do have the ability to unlink the DMRs from that SMR it's originally matched to. So when I talked about earlier, your DMR data has to be completed, and you see the status. If it's red, you're not able to submit the report, but you do have this unlink feature. So in the event that you're not able to fill out that DMR, or if it's supposed to be for another SMR report, you can simply click unlink, and then that DMR report would then be available down below in that section where it reads add DMR to this report. So the DMR will be available there, and you could add it to any other report that you have. So when the DMRs attach to the SMR report, they look at the monitoring period. So they're actually looking for an exact match, and then it also looks at the due date to find an exact match. If it doesn't find an exact match, it looks for approximate matches. So maybe that's where you'd find that you want it linked to a different report if it was using an approximate match algorithm. So that's a look at unlinking and linking. And maybe some of you have maybe encountered this with the September 15th report. And if your reporting due date was the 15th, what we had done is actually went and fetched all the July data. And so maybe if your July report was due September 15th, you may have had to go in and unlink your report so that you could submit your September report. So that's a look at linking and unlinking and how to use it and why it's important and how the DMR and SMR match work. So let's move on to the next item, which is submitting your report. So we talked about entering in your data. We talked about linking and unlinking if you had to. So the next step would be actually going through and submitting a report. So before you go through and submit your report, and you're probably familiar with this similar function with our SMRs, is you can create a PDF of the data you had entered in and verify that data before you go through and submit it. And so that's on the Create PDF Report button. So on the dashboard, when we looked at those two buttons on the right-hand side, the first one was Manage and Upload Files. The second one is Create a PDF Report. So by clicking on that, you can generate a PDF of all the data you had entered in, and you can verify it before you submit the report. And then part of our CROMAIR compliance is that we actually keep a copy of this PDF on file. So after you submit the report, it actually generates this PDF again and saves it in our zip file, our copy of record. And then you also have access to that copy of record as well from the report schedule page. And then let me go over this again. So the submittal, so if your DMR data is not complete, you will not be able to submit the report. So all the DMRs are linked to that SMR. If the status is red, letting you know either it's empty or incomplete, you won't be able to submit that SMR report. But we did go over how to use link and unlink. So if you wanted to link that DMR to a different report, you could go ahead and do that. If the data was not ready, so if you had not gotten that data ready, I believe there are no DI codes that you would use, and you could submit that data. And then when you got the data ready, you could have that report withdrawn by your regional staff, and then you could enter in that data. So that's an option. So either you could link and unlink it, or if you don't have that data ready, you could use a no DI code and then have the report withdrawn. And so withdrawing the report is similar to what you're accustomed to now, in such that you contact the regional water board's office and then talk to the staff, that you've been discussing your permit information with, and they would withdraw the report for you. If you did make changes to your DMR data, only those data that had different values from what was originally submitted would be updated, and those results or values would have the updated submittal date. But all the other data, suppose your data set had 50 records and there's only one record that was updated, only that one record would have the updated submittal date. The other 49 records would have the original submittal date. All right, so that's a high-level look at the system. You know, we went through the dashboard. It's pretty simple. With that, the color coordination letting you know if the data had been entered in or if it's incomplete. Your ability to use an ODI code for the entire feature limit set. Clicking on the actual feature limit set to bring up the web entry forms, entering in your data, unlinking if you had to, submitting the data, and then having the data withdrawn. So it's kind of a high-level look at it. So that's our first look at it. And so what I want to do now is demo the system. So we'll go through the screens in our sandbox environment. So I'm going to exit out of this PowerPoint presentation, and I'm going to bring up our sandbox environment. And so I've already logged in under the SDischarger account. And so what I have on my screen right now is a list of different facilities. If you're part of a larger organization and you manage several facilities, your screen will probably look like this. But if you only had one permit from one facility, what you'd actually see is this screen, which it just shows your reports, or actually your permit information first. So here's the permit information. So this is, many of you may just see this when you log in, but it shows your order number, and it's showing your active orders. So I want to click on my order number, and then it shows me a list of reports. So you guys are familiar with this one. It lists out the reports that are due for my facility. And then if you wanted to look at the data you submitted for a report, you know, when we talked about that copy of record file and that zip file that's stored, that's actually, you're able to click on download report and view that zip file, which includes the copy of record. So if you ever wanted to download a copy of record of the data that you had submitted, it's available on this screen and it's under the report section. But what we want to do is demo the DMR tab. So what I'm going to do is click on my report, so August report, and then here we are at the report builder screen. And so you guys are familiar with this screen with the different tabs, and so the different information goes in these different, what I used to call buckets. And so we're going to click on the DMR tab, and so here we are at the DMR dashboard. And again, we have the feature limit set, so that's the first column, 002A, and then we have INFA. So those are the different feature limit sets. Our monitoring period, this monitoring period is for August, and it matches up with our SMR monitoring period. And then also our due date, it's October 1st, and that matches up with the due date for this report. If we wanted to enter in an ODI code for a feature limit set, we click on this drop-down menu and select an ODI code we want. So for instance, if I select no DIC, no discharge, after I select it, the system will change the status to green, letting you know that a no DI code had been entered in. If you wanted to deselect an ODI code, you simply select the top menu item in that drop-down. So by selecting that, the no DI is set back to null, and that data set is empty. You'll actually notice on this screen on the dashboard, so for that first feature limit set 002A, I don't have the ability to select an ODI code, and that's because I had already started entering information in that feature limit set. So the status is set to incomplete. That just lets me know that I had started entering data, and that way, that's why I cannot enter in an ODI code. If I go in to this feature limit set, if I go into the web entry forms and delete any data had been entered in, the status would be set back to empty, and then I could select an ODI code. And then, again, the link and unlink. If I click unlink, That feature limit set's removed, and then now it's available in this drop-down menu. You can select it from the drop-down menu. This drop-down menu is has a lot of items in it because it's our test account that we have. Hopefully yours does not look like that. It should not look like that. So I selected that feature limit set and I added it back to my dashboard to have information for it. So that's a look at the dashboard, the different mechanics of clicking on that table. We also have upload managed files, and then we also have the DMR PDF report, and we'll go through that a little bit later on. But I want to click on the feature limit set and show you how to enter in your data. So by clicking on the feature limit set, you'll see that we do have, similar to the paper forms, your quantity and loading, so that's Q1, Q2, and then your quality and concentration, C1, C2, and C3. And so there are kind of prompts to let you know what's expected. So we're expected, for turbidity, the first item, we're expected to enter in a daily max. It puts in this limit right here. And you'll see that I actually selected a no DI code for it. We could use the drop-down menu to change the unit, sample type, and frequency. And so those are similar things to what we have on the paper, but what's different now is a comment. So you want to click on Show Comments, and then here anything that EPA has entered in would be displayed. So here it says DMRs greater than December 2009 have been updated to include the correct interpretation of permit requirements. So that's a good thing. Below towards the bottom of that parameter entry screen, we have the status box, so source. So this data had been entered in using the web entry. If you used an upload file, the upload file name would be there. So let's play around with this turbidity parameter and enter in different results. So I selected a NODI code for it. If you wanted to deselect the NODI code, similar to what we saw on the dashboard, you select the top item from that list, and then here you're back to being able to enter in a result. Before, when we had the NODI code, you see when I selected this NODI code right now, it's letting us know that the sample type analysis, the frequency of analysis, and excursions are going to be set to null. I click OK, and they're just set to null. But when there is an ODI code selected, these boxes are grayed out. And so if I deselect that ODI code, then now I'm able to enter in a result. And the same thing works the other way. If I enter in a result, then this ODI code is grayed out. So if there is no result, then you can use an ODI code. And so that's a common question that we've been getting. I can't select an ODI code for the parameter, probably because you have entered in a result. So you can't have a result and an ODI code. If you do enter in a result, so again, the drop-down menu for units, turbidity, it's only NTU. There are different parameters that have more of a selection for a drop-down menu for units. Sample type, that's the full drop-down menu. You can select a different sample type. And then also frequency, you can select a different frequency as well. After I select a different frequency and enter in my results, once I click Save, you'll see at the status box, we get two messages. And so the first message letting us know that the sample type has been changed from what ICES is expecting. Again, this form is populated using the empty slot file. That empty slot file is what populates your DMR pre-printed forms. It's the items that ICES is expecting. So these are just warnings letting you know that it has been changed from what is expected. You are okay to go through and submit this report or submit this data set, but it's just a warning letting you know what the original value was. So the original value was a grab. So if I change it back to a grab, so once I make a change, you'll see that the Save Parameter button is available. Once I click it, you'll see it's grayed out. but once I do make a change, then it is available. But so I changed the sample type back to grab, and you'll see that that warning disappeared, letting us know that now it's okay to submit as well. So that's a look at the web entry forms. This first example for turbidity, you'll see that we entered in results. We were able to change the drop-down menus, and then you're able to see the warnings that came up. And then we also showed you how to select a no-DI code for that parameter. And so for turbidity, there was only one result, so there's only one no-DI code. And when you selected that one no-DI code, the units, sample type, and frequency and excursions were set to null, and that warning box came up. So again, it's just actually, I shouldn't say a warning box. It was just a message box letting you know that it was set to null, and it's okay to go through and go ahead and save that parameter. If we look down below, we have BOD, and so for this example, there are multiple results required. So we have Q1, Q2, C1, C2, and C3. So there's actually 5 results, and you have the ability to enter in 5 different no-DI codes. So the no-DI codes, again, it's similar to what we saw earlier. If you select a no-DI code for both Q1 and Q2, you'll see that the units are actually grayed out. If there's only one no-DI code, then we're expecting a result for the other, and then you have the units available, and you can select the drop-down menu to change those units. So it's pretty simple. As you go through and enter in your data, you can use the tab button on your keyboard and enter in your data. You can save each parameter at a time, or you can save all parameters. So you can go through and enter in all your data, and at the bottom there's a Save All Parameters button, and then also at the top there's a Save All Parameters button. So that's a look at how to enter in your data through the web entry screen. So let me go back out to the dashboard. You can save your data. I'm going to save the data, and I'm going to go back out to the dashboard. And then you can see that I didn't fill out all the data. That's why it's incomplete. Once you fill out all the data, the status will be changed to complete, and it will turn actually green, just letting you know that everything has been completed, and now you can go through and submit your report. So let's look at web entry. The next thing we want to look at is how to upload a file. So if you generate an upload file and you want to apply it to this feature limit set, you're going to click on Upload Manage Files to a box in which you could browse and upload your file. So I'm going to click Browse. I'm going to select my upload file. I'm going to click Open, and then click Upload. And then you'll get the message that the file was successfully uploaded. And that's hopefully you get that message. That's a good message letting you know that it's okay. There are other messages that will appear, and we'll go through those as well. But if I go back to the dashboard, we'll look and we'll see our INF, and the status is green, so the data has been uploaded. You can click on this feature limit set, so I'm going to click on it, and then we'll be able to see the data that we uploaded. So here, you'll see everything is grayed out. So if you do upload the file, you can't make changes on the screen. You have to delete that file, make changes on your computer, then re-upload the file. So those are kind of, when we talked about the advantages of upload versus web entry. So web entry has an advantage there in which you can make a change to the file, to the result on the screen. So here, all our results are entered in, and the source is the upload file. You see everything's completed. And then in this example, we did use the sample type and frequency of what is expected in ISIS. What we could do is go back out to the dashboard, and suppose I wanted to change that. I want to make a change to my file. I'm going to click Browse Upload. I'm going to delete that file. So now if we go back and look at the dashboard, you'll see INF as you see. There is no data in there. I'm going to go to my upload file. I'm going to open it. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to re-upload it. So when I re-upload this file, you'll see that we do get a warning, and the warnings are similar to, like, you know, the web entry form, which we changed the sample type. So I changed 2 sample types, 2 different parameters. So I changed them to a composite 24, and so the file was uploaded successfully, but there are 2 warnings just letting you know that's been changed from what is expected. So you do get the warning here on the upload file if something is changed from what is expected. And then also if you go back out to the dashboard, you'll see the status is complete. I mean, the data is okay to upload. If you click on the feature limit set, similar to the web entry forms, you know, if we changed it manually, we do get this warning box or warning message here in our status box letting us know that it has been changed from what is expected. I'm going to go back out to the dashboard. So that was a look at using the web entry and then also using the uploaded file. We went over linking and unlinking. The next thing we want to talk about is creating that PDF report. So once you've entered in your data, if you click on PDF, DMR PDF report, it'll generate a PDF of the data that you had entered in, and you can verify this before you go through with your submittal. So here it is. Here's the PDF, and you could go through it before you submit it. So you could print it, or you could send it to somebody else that does the QA. And then also when you go through and after you submit your report, it's going to be saved in the copy of record. Looking at the submittal, I'm going to click on the submittal. The DMR status. So the DMR is not complete, so I can't submit this SMR. So this feature limit set is red, letting us know it's incomplete, so I can't submit it. If all the statuses are complete, you know, if we click on the submittal tab, you know, that DMR status restricting us from submitting the report is gone. So if all your DMRs are complete, then you're able to submit the report, but if your DMR is not complete, then you can't submit it. In the event that that DMR should be linked to a different report, or if you wanted to link it to a different report, you can use that unlink function, and then you could go through and submit your report.
Rasam, there's a connection, there's a link there for export to Excel. That's not usable at this point, right? Or is that an error?
Yeah, this data export to Excel, that's for the data summary for your eSMR data.
Just for the eSMR?
Yeah.
So not to really use that for DMRs, because only the DMRs, they can look at the data using the PDF option.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, for the DMRs, all we have is the DMR PDF report.
And that DMR PDF report, now there was an issue with some facilities that could not export, right?
Yeah.
That's incorrect.
Yeah.
Oh, it has?
Yeah.
Okay, so everyone's good to use it then.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah, there was a problem that came up earlier, and it was with any facilities that had an ampersand in their name. So so the facilities were the one I was just on, and then also CNH Sugar. So those so CNH Sugar has an ampersand in their name, and that's why there's a problem with creating that PDF report.
But that's been solved now, right?
Yeah, let's just do it just so you guys can see.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, good.
All right, so that's our demo of the system. We looked at kind of the same stuff that we looked at in our slides. The next thing I want to show you is our web page, our eSMR 2.5 web page, in which we have our DMR entry guide, and then we also have our file upload specifications. We had a list of our training sessions. This is the last one. And then we have when the requirement for using the DMRs goes into effect. So it's the report's due October 1st. So let me show you how to actually navigate to this web page. So here I'm going to start out somewhere everyone is familiar with, and this is our SWRCB login screen. So you guys probably have this bookmarked. So from our SWRCB login screen, on the left-hand side, we have some links. So under SWRCB resources, we have the link for SWRCB and PDF. So clicking on that link brings us to our Help Center page. And you guys are probably familiar with this, our Help Center page, in which we had our tools such as the PET tool or pivot tools. We have tools on there. But our eSMR 2.5 FAQ is the second link from the top. So what is eSMR 2.5? So we've been developing this web page for over 2 years. As we're developing the application with our user group, we've been entering information here on this web page. Just recently, we were able to add our DMR entry guide. So that's under How Does eSMR 2.5 Work? So this is our DMR entry guide. And so for anybody on the phone that's probably wondering, how can I get this presentation available, on my desktop? This is what you want to download. This is the DMR Users Guide, and it's everything that we've talked about and then even more detailed. So here we have our table of contents, so you can click on any one of those items that you have questions about. Let me go through the introduction. So again, the purpose of this is to help you enter in your data on the DMR entry tab. And the data you enter is submitted to EPA, to the ISIS, Integrated Compliance Information System. And then the data that we have on our web entry forms is pre-populated with the data that's in ISIS. So that our node actually does two pathways. So the first is actually fetching that data, from ISIS of what's expected, and then actually after you enter it in, it's going to submit it back to ISIS. If you have any questions, with your permit or facility, similar with like your paper forms, if you had a question about your paper form, you still want to contact the DMR Help Center, and so that's their email address right there on the screen. We also have the SMR, or the SWRCB Help Center, and that would be who you contact if you had a problem with like your login or your username, or if you want to add a new user or your reporting schedule. So that would be the SWRCB Help Center. But then if you had a problem with your DMRs, like on your DMR forms, you'd contact the DMR Help Center. And then the information you enter in, like for your SMR data, like using your PET tool, that's a different data set than the information you enter in for your DMR tab. So they're two different data sets. They're two different upload files. So for the DMRs, you have the ability to enter in NoDI codes. The NoDI codes can be entered in for the entire feature limit set, and then they could also be entered in for a particular parameter. And then also, if a parameter has multiple results expected, you could enter in a NoDI code for an individual result. Both the SMR and DMR tabs must be completed before submittal. If for some reason you cannot complete the DMR tab, you could enter in a NoDI code, if you're expecting the data and didn't have it, or if you wanted to unlink it, link it to a different SMR, you have the ability to do that as well. And once you get your data in and you find out that you need to make a correction, you'd want to contact the regional caseworker. They would withdraw your report, and then you could resubmit the data. And then only that data that had been changed would be uploaded with the new submittal date. All the remaining data that had not changed would contain the original submittal date. And then also, just similar to SMR, at any time you could save your data and then continue at a later time.
If you're not asking questions, could I have everybody please mute their phones using *6? Thank you.
All right, so moving through our entry guide. So similar to what we went through on the slide, so we have our dashboard, and I have a lot of text that goes with it. So if you're into reading, this is perfect for you. So we go over what all the columns mean. So feature limit set, monitoring period, due date, NoDI codes, status. So that's the dashboard. And then we go through the web entry forms, and we go over everything I went through, such as the drop-down menus, the warnings that appear, the comments, selecting a NoDI code, and we have a list of all the NoDI codes. So in attachment A of this document, so at the last page of this document, we have a list of all the NoDI codes. So that's something, if you don't have already printed out, you'd want to print it out and have it, like at your workstation. So as you enter in this data, you'd be able to select that NoDI code using that attachment, which has the codes and the descriptions for those codes. So on this web entry form, all we do is have the codes, but up here on the dashboard, we have the code and description because we have a little bit larger of a field. We have more real estate here on the dashboard, whereas the web entry forms, there's a lot more information that needs to be entered in, so that we only had a small space to put in the NoDI code. When you do select the NoDI code and it's the only results or for that parameter, you will get this message box letting you know that the unit's sample type and frequency will be set to null. So it's just a message box. You just click OK, and it will save successfully. Excursions are entered in above sample type and frequency on the right-hand side of that form. We went over the source, web entry versus uploading the file, and then how that is noted here on this web entry form. If you did use web entry, you can make changes later on, but if you did upload it, you'd have to delete that file, make changes on your screen, on your desktop, and then re-upload it. And we did that example as well. Here's a different look at different statuses. We talked about uploading and managing files, and we actually did that and deleted it. And we actually looked at the status of the upload file. It was uploaded successfully, but then when we did change the sample type, from what was expected, we did get a few warnings on that upload screen. So that was good to have those warnings on the upload screen. And when you opened up the form, you had the warnings on the form as well. If you wanted to create an upload file, we do have the specifications on our web page, and there's a hyperlink to it here. So if I click on it, we could open it up, and then we can go through it as well. So again, this DMR upload file is different than the PET tool upload file. So the PET tool, it uses the EDF backbone. So that's the same file that the Army Corps of Engineers use. So it uses the EDF file structure, and we have a different list of valid values. We have a different list of, we have analytical methods. DMRs don't have that. And then we have a different types of calculations. So in your permits, you may have like 30-day geometric mean, or 4 out of 10 samples, or there's a lot of different sample types that we have for SMRs. So it is different than the DMR file structure. So here is the DMR file structure. Here are the file specifications. So there are 31 fields. So that file that I opened up, so there are 31 fields going across this way. Here they are on this Excel spreadsheet. And this Excel spreadsheet is just to help you kind of get an understanding of what those fields are. So the first grouping, it's the DMR, such as the permitted feature, so 001, and then the limit set A, and then the monitoring period end date for that data set. So you put that end date in the year, month, day format. And then we move to parameter, so you have your parameter code, your monitoring location, and then your season. So that's the DMR parameter. These are what these fields for the upload file are. And then we have our quantity 1, quantity 2, and then our unit of measure for the quantities. And then concentration 1, concentration 2, concentration 3, and then our unit of measure for the concentration. So, milligrams per liter, pounds per day. Those are like the unit of measures, for either the quantity or the concentration. Sorry for moving the screen so fast. And then below that, the last thing we have is additional information such as excursions, frequency of analysis, and sample type. And so this file specification, it's DMR, it's EPA's file specification. So we just took exactly what they use. And so for when you fill out this information, so for instance, this would be the parameter item, they have different parameter codes. So here's a list So each one of these tabs in this Excel spreadsheet contains a list of the valid values. So for stream width, 0004, temperature, 0010, and so there is a different list of codes for the different parameters. For NODIs, here's another look at the NODI codes and descriptions. A unit of measure, here are the codes, descriptions, long and short descriptions. Frequency of analysis, we have the codes and description. And then also sample type, we have the codes and description. So if you chose to use to create an upload file, the file specifications are located by clicking on this link, and then it's also on that page in which we downloaded this entry guide from. The PDF report, for those of you that had an ampersand in your facility name, I think there's a couple people that had contacted us. It is working now. We got that fixed, so you can create that PDF and review your information before your submittal. And then also it's saved as part of our Chromeria, as a copy of record. Unlinking and linking, we went over that. You could unlink it from a report and relink it to a different report. And then submittal, your DMR data, if it's not complete, you won't be able to submit the report. So the DMR data must be complete for your submittal. And then at the very last page is our NODI codes. So this is something that I highly recommend that you go through and go and download. And actually, let me show you how to navigate to that again. So from your SWRCB login screen, so you probably have this bookmarked. Here's the SWRCB login screen. I'm going to go to the left-hand side under SWRCB resources and click on SWRCB MPDF. I'm going to click on that link, and this takes us to our help page. And so the second link, what is eSMR 2.5? This shows us all the information we've captured over the past couple of years, and then we've added to it just recently in our DMR entry guide. We've had our format up here for quite some time now. Our example file, if you want to see it. And then we also have, if you choose to create an upload file, we have a guide on how to enter in the NODI codes for that upload file. So that's something important to look at too. So this is our 6th training we've done so far. So if you have questions, feel free to email us. I'll actually put up on our screen our email addresses. And then, so after this training, we're expecting you to start using the eSMR 2.5 module to submit any reports due or any DMRs due October 1st. So submitting your DMRs electronically as of October 1st. And so when we did our eSMR training, we had that interim time, as when the regional board staff was reviewing your reports to determine if it was complete, So I think there was that transition in which you submitted like 3 reports. So you'd continue submitting your paper and electronic for 3 reports, until it was deemed complete. Your electronic version was deemed complete. With DMRs, so as of October 1st, it's all electronic. You do not need to submit your paper reports. So it's all electronic. No paper reports are necessary. And then as far as like a signature, I think I got that question. Are we required to sign, or how do we have our electronic signature? And so that's similar with the SMRs, in which you have your electronic signature as the LRO for that facility. So that serves that function, as your electronic signature. The LRO had already filled out a paperwork saying that they certify and submit they are the legal representative of that facility. So, so you are able to submit your DMRs, and that signature that we have on file will hold for the DMRs as well. Let me jump back to my presentation. All right, so that's our web page. We went through the DMR entry guide. Here's our contact information.
That's like no good.
So since this is the last training session, this is the 6th one that we've held so far. If you have a question, it's probably best to call us or email us. I've tried to go through most of the questions that we've got so far. So if this is your second training that you've attended, you may be getting a little bit more information since I'm able to bring all the questions that we've gotten in the past month to the table right now. So I think we're open for questions now. So any questions?
Make sure they are mute.
Oh yeah, so you want to hit *6 if you have any questions. So we had developed a system, it's taken quite some time to do it. I started back in 2007. We formed the original eSMR users group, and then we developed eSMR 2. And then from that eSMR 2, one of the main big pushes was to develop eSMR 2.5, which is getting the DMRs electronic and submitting both SMRs and DMRs at the same time. So one submittal taking care of both SMR and DMR data, so you don't have to sign two papers, mail off one paper, mail off the other paper. We're trying to get it as much streamlined as possible.
Can you please show that last screen with the waterboard contacts on it?
Sure.
Thank you.
And so the web entry forms, it's made to help you enter in your data. It's pretty simple. If you're used to filling out the paper forms right now, the web entry forms very similar, just entering in your results.
And when I talked to Armando, he said, oh, it'll be simple. It's just like filling a paper report. It takes you about 15 minutes. And I said, I don't think
so. Again, when we initially rolled out our SMRs, it was a big process. We came out to the regions and we showed you how to use the tech tool. We actually showed you how to log in. We created user accounts, and then you're off to being able to enter that data from your desk. Now you should be able to log into your report right now and be able to see that DMR tab. So that's something that it would be highly recommended that you do that today. Log into your report, click on your DMR tab, and then just view your DMR. And then if you have any questions about it, there's still like about a week left before the report's due, so you could contact us if you have any problems or issues with what's showing on your DMR tab.
well, it says October 1st.
This is Catherine from LADWP, and my question is when did you want us to start reporting on the electronic DMRs officially? Because with 1 week left, it doesn't leave a lot of time for a reviewer.
Yeah, it should start reporting on October 1st. That's the date.
Yeah, that's the date that was originally emailed out a while ago.
Okay.
So this is the 6th training session, so you guys have chosen to come to the last one. I mean, there's additional ones in the beginning.
Right, and it's really no different than the paper DMR forms. I mean, the only difference is that instead of writing the number in with the pen, now you're actually just typing it in on the web entry form.
No, I understand that, but I think our folks have already done the paper.
Have already what? I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Have already completed the paper DMR. Just
Is there a lot of DMRs? Is that your concern, or?
yeah, they're pretty involved.
Well, just keep in mind that, even though it says October 1st day, the system will not, if you're concerned for it being late, the system will not consider it late, ISIS, meaning if it goes up to the 30th of the month. So it's due the 1st, but it's not late until it's past 30 days. So, you can submit the paper form so you at least know that you submitted on time, but you can start entering the data. If you're concerned with being late, it won't be late.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Keep in mind, however, though, if you're going to submit your DMR late and it's going to be close to 30 or more, you want your SMR submitted, because if you're, that would be a late report penalty, and it would be $300 for the eSMR after 30 days.
Right, because it's past 30 days.
So we're talking about the DMR.
Your SMRs are also, you don't want to make your SMRs late beyond 30 days. True.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about the SMR. That we've already uploaded in CWIG.
Do that,
Thank you.
which I didn't know. I always thought it had to be in the mail form.
Which one? The next one?
Now they're probably lucky that
Okay, there's a question that's about, let's see, from Burlingame. They submitted their August DMRs. So do we have to submit for August when we submit our September information?
Well, I mean, if you've already submitted that information, Bill, are you on the phone? Maybe you can clarify the question.
Yes, I am. We submitted using the 2.5, and I was wondering, being that the opening is for the September data with a catch-up of August, do we have to do that?
No, stupid.
So you submitted August data, DMRs?
Yep.
Through the eSMR 2.5 system?
Correct.
Okay. Then you should be fine.
When you say do you have to resubmit, are you talking about paper forms?
No.
Oh. No, you don't have to resubmit the once you submitted it, if you submit it with the August DMR and SMRs all together, then it's done. You're done for August.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but for everybody else that hasn't done so yet, they will have to do a catch-up for August. Is that correct?
No, most of the dischargers' August DMRs are due on October 1st.
Yeah.
And they are, and they have been submitting it. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
so they'll submit by August 1st. They should submit their October DMRs along with their October eSMR, and then their September information should be, what is that, November?
right. They should
Yeah, it should be submitted on November 1st or by November 1st.
Got that.
Using everybody's what he's doing.
What is the first month that your 2.5 eSMR must be submitted via this method?
The first monitoring month?
Yeah.
Yeah, it should, for the most part, it's August. There are some dischargers out there with some weird due dates, where it's due like halfway through the month. So there's a couple exceptions out there. But for the most part, it's the August DMR.
Okay. We're done. We're up to speed.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, Rassam, there's a question on here from Susan. We're going to be using WIMS. When we set up the WIMS for the eSMR, should we follow the same order of parameters that have been on the paper forms?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
The paper form and then the electronic form are the same empty spot file. So yeah, all the parameter names on the paper form, such as like.
because that's the order that ISIS is expecting the data.
Well, she's asking if it needs to be in the same order. Like, so when she uploads, if she uploads an upload file, does each parameter need to be in order?
No, you could switch the order of the parameters. Yeah, it doesn't have to be an exact. So in this example here, we have typically it's just of the parameter code, and it just increments. So this is 310 or 530 or.
So those can be in any order then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, would her WIMS system would her WIMS would it generate this, or she's gonna have to set this up, right? Or something. Because WIMS won't automatically set up a CSV file, would it?
I don't. Yeah, you have to go through the file specifications for. You'd have to read this, and then if your WIMS could do this, then you could upload the file.
So it's more like they have to contact maybe whoever produced this product and see if it's capable of creating this file, correct? Yeah. Okay. And then they're asking if you could explain the electronic signature again, as far as how.
Who has a question about it?
Kathleen. She says that she's asking if.
Are you there, Kathleen?
You explain? Yeah.
Yeah, yes, I am.
Okay, what was your question about the signature?
Yeah, just wondering, when you're explaining about the electronic signature, is it basically the legally responsible official, once they get in and enter the data and then they certify it, is it that serves the purpose that they don't need to submit any paper report to EPA anymore.
Can you speak up a little bit louder?
Yeah, just wondering, like, you know, once the legally responsible official, like, enter the data into SWRCB, is it once they done that and certify and submit the report successfully, then basically they don't, you talk about something electronic signature.
Yeah, for eSMRs, so we rolled out eSMR to all the major and the minor NPDES dischargers, and so there's different levels of accounts. So the first one was like a data submitter, like a data preparer. So that would be an individual that can go in and enter in data. And then the higher account with more authority would be the LRO, the legally responsible official. And so for that individual, we had to have a wet signature on file, and that wet signature certified that they were the legally responsible official, you know, for that facility, and that they certified it under purgatory of a penalty. So that's having that LRO form on file, then so for the DMRs, I believe you have to sign the DMRs as well, like have a signature on them, so that electronic signature that we have for the LROs, that will serve for the DMRs as well, and that was part of our COMARE compliance.
Okay, so as long as that's the person that goes in and enter the data, then that would do it, right?
Or as long as it's the person that certifies the report. I mean, there is the data preparer account, the one that can go in and enter in the data, and then it's up to the LRO to verify all the information and submit it.
Okay.
Rashawn, we have another question from Susan. It looks like we would have to set up a separate files for effluent parameters and WIMs. Is this correct?
So for your upload file, you could upload all your DMR data in one file, or you could upload several files. You could have different files for each one of your monitoring locations. So the choice is up to you how you want to upload the file. If it's easier for you to manage individual monitoring locations, then you can go ahead and upload several files. But if you wanted to just upload all the data in one file, one CSV file, then you could just create one CSV file.
We have another question here from Tony. So it says that we have started entering the data into the DMR entry form and found that it automatically adds a decimal to all entries, which makes it not accurate for the data we are reporting. It goes on to say an example, and then second part to this question. Let's see, I can see, sorry. Well, let's go ahead and answer that first part. That's
how ISIS
stores it. Yeah, that's how it stores it. It automatically adds that extra decimal in there.
So that's something that you won't see. So ISIS is how they store the data, and then ECHO is what displays the data. So when we did our beta testing 2 years ago, this question had come up, you know, why we have this additional, zero, you know, at the end. And so what we did is we actually submitted data, and then we were able to see it in after it had been processed and see it in ECHO, and in ECHO it doesn't have it. So that's just the way it's stored in the tables of the database. So when you view it on ECHO, you will not see that zero.
Yeah, and that's what the public views is the ECHO database. Yeah. No. Renan, you wanted to?
No, that's what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
It's a public database.
Right. So the second part to his question, let's see. We have also noticed that if we enter an NODI code for any parameter, it takes off the sampling frequency and type. He goes on to say that he can see it when he enters NODI 9, but NODIQ and NODIB, he's asking if it should still list how often we actually sampled. Well, it's the way ISIS has always worked. Even when you guys have submitted your paper DMRs and you use an NODI code, when we go and enter that information into ISIS, it eliminates the rest of it. There's really nothing else, you know, I could say. Tony, if you get on the phone, maybe you can explain your question a little bit further.
Yeah, this is Mindy. I work with Tony. We were just making sure that, you know, if that's the way that it always records it, I just wanted to make sure you're getting the most accurate data if anybody needs it in there. But if you're okay with it wiping it out, then we'll keep using the codes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And actually, just going back onto that same question, I just want to reiterate that that the system prefers an NODIQ code or 9 or B for non-detect. It doesn't recognize less than values or estimated values. So that's why it's preferable when you're inputting those results, make sure that you use the code. You could, in your SMR, report the actual value if it's an estimate or the actual less than the MDL, but for DMR submittal, it has to be the code.
Hi, this is Josie. A follow-up question on the same subject. I agree. We need to use NODI B and Q for non-detect or J-flag value, the DNQ values. The question is, how do you? I mean, if the frequency is wiped out, you still recognize that we meet the criteria of doing the parameters 3 times a week per se. I mean, how would you know that we actually meet that frequency if the frequency is taken out automatically when you use an ODI code?
You know, that question really never been asked by US EPA.
Okay. I mean, it comes down to they must have had a reason for coding it or programming it that way. Yeah, that's something we can't really answer. That's just the way ISIS collects the data.
Yeah. Now, if there were any questions from EPA as to what the frequency was, we could always, here at the State Water Board, look into your eSMRs and actually see how many times you've took a sample or monitored.
Right.
All right.
Mm-hmm. And if you feel that, you know, you really need to present that data, you could always put it into your cover letter.
If EPA does not really have not questioned it historically,
yeah, no.
I think we're just gonna have to follow the instruction, even with ISIS limitation per se.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, if they wrote it that way, then.
Oh, so Rassam, here's a question from John Clemens. We have already submitted the August SMRs with the DMR tab unlinked. Can we go back in and resubmit the DMR populated and linked?
Yeah. Yeah, you could call your regional staff and then they could withdraw your August report and then you could relink your DMRs and submit it.
Okay. So they'd have to contact their caseworker or someone from the regions to unlink it. Okay.
To withdraw it.
Or to withdraw it, yeah. So then
they can go back and link it into that report. Well, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have another question here. Let's see. The entry forms have 2 sections to enter data, loading and concentration. If we have an NODI code for concentration, should we put the same NODI code for loading results if it applies? Yeah, absolutely. You want to add to that?
No.
Yeah, that's
definitely.
Mm-hmm. We got lots of time for questions. If you guys have any more questions, you just unmute and ask away.
Yes, I have a question. We previously used to submit scatter graphs and org charts and things like that. Is that still required?
With the DMRs, it's never been required. It's just those sheets that we've sent out. If that's required for your SMRs, or you submit that with your SMRs, then that doesn't apply to the DMR.
You could use the attachments tab and then upload it there if you want to.
Oh, yeah, there's a good option, yeah.
And also, we would issue our Test America lab results as well. Upload those too.
Yeah, so you would attach those.
To show the QA and QC, make those as attachments.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have a question here from Bob. When entering data, did you say not to use the less than or greater than sign? And the answer is yes. Don't use those. The ISIS system doesn't recognize them. So if you're using a less than sign, or if your value has a less than sign associated with it, although you should be using one of the NODI codes. So what is it, NODI-B, I think would be the code? Yeah. So look at the codes and don't use the signs.
He drove me wild. Half the stuff he said.
Yeah, so Rasam's showing you the NODI codes available. This is all on the entry guide, which is located on the eSMR 2.5 webpage. And do we have that webpage link? So to get to the webpage link, we'll go ahead and put the URL in the chat box.
What's up with the shoe?
It's. Have any questions?
Rasam? Yeah, question here.
Oh, why are those symbols available? Oh, I guess you could use them. When we spoke to Roger said you could use them. But yeah.
So what symbols are available?
Actually, yeah.
Do you want to just let them know that they are available?
They serve no purpose.
Roger said we could use them, but I don't think we should if it's a left hand.
Yeah.
I guess there's certain situations in which they would be used, but most situations, as Gil pointed out, you'd want to use the correct NODI code, for it. But there are other situations in which it could be used.
Yeah, it's dangerous to use those because then the system doesn't realize it's a non-detect, and you may have a limit that's below the MDL, so it may trigger a violation. And we have run into a lot of those issues with the paper forms.
Yeah, this used to be all there was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look at all of them now. Yeah. Fired
So here's another question. Let's see. On the entry form, there is the excursion section. Say we have a permit limit exceedance. Do we have to put the number of exceedances violations in this area? The answer to that is yes. That's where, as many times as if you exceeded the violation, that number should be there. Now, if you're using an NODI code, I mean,
it won't
let you populate
it. But then NOD means non-detect, so it shouldn't be a violation.
Yeah. Laboratory error, frozen conditions. Frozen conditions.
We can hear somebody on the phone. Do you guys have a question?
I think that wraps it up. Any other questions? All right. Okay, well, just email us if you have any problems. All right. I think that's it for our training for today. All right. Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Shift there. Interesting.
Those are questions. Huh?
Oh, questions people typed in?
Yeah.
figured it out.